welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about my series of unfortunate jobs. So I know I haven't visited this series in probably a few months. It's probably been, or maybe longer, it's been since probably May. So today I just felt inspired. I was like sitting and of course scrolling through Facebook like I always do, and I saw some people who were commenting on their experiences applying to jobs and how the jobs required them to almost do pieces of the job to even apply. And I was like, wow, sounds like my experiences. And so it just made me think, you know what, I want to make that video. So I felt inspired. Having ADHD, you have to go with whatever kind of like video or something, whatever it is that you're feeling inspired to do or motivated to do, because your form of motivation is like really low compared to other people who don't have ADHD. And that's what I think I've come across with making my videos, is I had these ideas and I'm like, I have to make this video, but I don't really feel inspired or motivated to do it. And so then I'm like, oh, so just sit around and don't make it. So today I feel inspired to continue my story of my series of unfortunate jobs. But before we get started, now Molly's put away. She loves to interrupt me. She's very rude. Hey, lay down. So before we get started in the video, don't forget to go like, subscribe, share this video, and do all of stuff. Make sure you comment, and I would just love to hear from you, your ideas, your stories about you and how you are experiencing life so far. Where was I even at? Oh my gosh. It's the worst when you get interrupted and I have to like get back into the flow of like what I was even thinking about. Now I'm gonna want to make another video that's not anything related to the job. I'm gonna be inspired to make a video about dogs that like to bark. Okay, she's gonna lay down. We'll see. Usually she does pretty good in my videos, but here lately she's been very barky. But yeah, so I think my last video where I left off was the jobs that I had before I, kind of like the jobs that I had after my divorce. So I had a boutique, of course, because I'm very creative and I like being an entrepreneur and I like having my own thoughts and ideas and driving things forward and all that kind of stuff. So of course I had my own business for like 5 years and it was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. And it was nice to work for myself, and of course I still worked on the side and worked other jobs and things like that, because having your own business doesn't mean that you're going to be like rich and wealthy, or you're even going to make enough money to pay bills. Usually it means you're going to be working jobs and you're going to be taking the money you make in another job and you're going to be putting it into the business, and you're not going to be making any money from your business, really. At least that was my experience. I just kept like doing stuff that didn't really make a lot of sense because I was really young at the time too, and I didn't know how business works and all that kind of stuff. I've learned a lot through my experiences, and that's the thing, like if you have a business idea, you should go ahead and do it, because just because you fail at a business doesn't mean that you're permanently failed. It just means you've learned some experiences and you've learned some things and you're just wiser now, and so you can create another business. Most people don't create their first business and it just be wildly successful. Usually it takes multiple attempts, different things, and trying new stuff, and so you have to keep trying new stuff, and don't be afraid to do that. I've had multiple businesses. I've actually had quite a few. So that one was a boutique. I made soaps. I wanted to design my own clothing, which I still kind of want to do. So maybe some point in my life I will figure that piece out. I don't know how to do it now. So I was wanting to design my own clothes. I wanted to, and I already have everything figured out as far as like the aesthetics of it, what the logo to look like, and who my target market would be, and price points and all of that kind of stuff. But right now it just doesn't make sense for me, because clothing, it's really hard to get into clothing, especially with a lot of clothing being made with like really cheap slave labor type conditions in foreign countries. So if you make something here in the US, it's going to be very costly, and to sell it, it's going to be really expensive. And as we know, 44% of the US jobs don't pay any money. So that's almost half the population that can't really afford your wares. So it really breaks it down. It's going to be a very niche group, I guess, of pompous rich people. Well, hopefully they won't be, but maybe they will. I don't know. But yeah, so my first job after I divorced was working at a restaurant. I was bartending, and I was also working part-time at a company that sold really high-end luxury handbags and shoes and scarves and things like that. And that job was kind of interesting. I'm glad I went and worked there. I was really excited to get accepted. And it paid more than minimum wage in Mississippi, which was, at the time, I think was like $7 and something, which I think is what it still is, maybe. It's really low, by the way. So they paid like $12 an hour. So I was really excited to be getting $12 an hour, but $12 an hour is not that much. If you really look at it, the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's only like, if you work full time, you might make $30,000 a year. Actually, hold on, let's do the math really quick. Okay, let's just do a little average. We're not gonna do anything crazy. We'll just kind of get an idea, just a rough little idea of what exactly you could potentially make working there full time. So you can make about $480 a week, which is not very much. So you'll make under $2,000 a month. That's literally less. That's about $24,000 a year if you're working full time. So that was my job that paid way more than minimum wage, that I was absolutely so excited to get accepted for. And I had to go through a lot of rigorous training. They went through specific body languages, how to stand, how to speak, how to talk about the products, how to, just a lot of salesy stuff. And just, they wanted you to stand with your hands next to your side and eye contact and just talking and discussing the products. But it was a lot of fun because I felt like I learned a lot of things through that training. I hated the role plays. I always hate role plays. I feel weird because I'm not an actor or an actress or whatever. Like, I could be overly animated, yes, in like daily life and speaking, but I don't like getting up front of like a group of people, the manager, the boss, so whoever's training us, and the group of all of us who are learning, and we have to role play like, oh, let me sell you this handbag. Oh, it's this specific whatever, you know, pebbled leather that's soft and supple and buttery, and you know, like all of this weird stuff. And it was like, you just felt so put on the spot for everything that you said, because they were evaluating everything, your verbiage, your body language, your eye contact, what you did with your hands, how you stood. Whew, it was exhausting. So I really tried really hard. But as soon as I get there, I love sales. No, I don't like sales. I like making money. So when I'm focused on something, which is make money, I can be super focused and diligent and a really hard worker and very energetic and energized. And so I actually, almost every single month working there, if you are the #1 seller, then you get this extra like check. It could be like $500 or $300 for the month. And it was based on how much overall the store went over or at or below the target sales. And so that was always my goal. And it's really hard. They didn't have a #1 spot or a #2 spot. You didn't make a percentage commission on your sales. I mean, it was an all or nothing thing. Like, you could literally be #2 and you're like, man, didn't get that amount of money. So I always strive to be #1. And I think only one month I was like #2 or 3 or something like that happened. I was really down because I tried so hard every time I went to work. Like, my main goal, I was the most focused out of everyone who worked there. I was so consistent because there were people, they wanted it, but their consistency of wanting it every single time and every single hour that they worked there, it would wane a little bit. But me, my drive, my motivation, I was focused. I wanted that #1 spot. I wanted that extra check. And they actually went to work for them full time. And the manager there, she was not the manager. The managers and me got along great. They were all really cool. I liked all of them. But the GM, she just seemed like she didn't like me. And there was one guy there who actually, and there were not very many guys. There was only like 2. And he liked to come over and like talk to me and chat and things like that. And he was really funny. He was cool. He was fun. But he liked to gossip. And so he usually would come over and like tell me gossip, which I don't remember now what he would even tell me. But he would like gossip about other people or just this and that, you know, and just like whatever. And I'm just like, oh, listening, you know. And the GM, which she talked to me one time, and she mentioned like, oh, you're gossiping or something. I just remember her saying something about gossiping. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm not gossip. Like, just because he comes over and talks to me about stuff, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm not gonna say I didn't participate in the gossip, I just listened. And so I thought that was really weird. And so it seemed like she kind of did not like me, but I was her #1 seller. I was the best employee, never called out, never was late, never was anything. And so she wanted me to work there full time. And I was just telling her, like, look, the money and the numbers don't make sense to me. Like, even if I come and I work full time here, why am I gonna do that and still make $24,000 a year? Like, even in Mississippi, the living wage there is close to $50,000. So it's a serious disconnect. So I did not want to work there full time, and she was trying to really convince me and was like trying to run the numbers and was like, if every month, if you make top seller, and if we do this, these hypotheticals. And I'm like, well, what if I don't make top seller every single month? What if I, for whatever reason, can't make top seller every single month or can't make it at all? I mean, it's really, you could try you could try your hardest, but there could maybe be someone who's maybe better than you, or I can't bank on that and roll that into my numbers and if what I can afford as far as bills. So I ended up going and taking another job, and you know, while I worked there at these 2 jobs, sometimes I would have an entire like 2 weeks where I wouldn't get an off day between that job and my bartending job. And so I would literally work for weeks on end without any breaks, without any days off. I was working day, night, and when I would get off from my bartending job, I would come home and I would get on my computer and I would create cover letters, I would apply for jobs. Of course, in Mississippi, there weren't like a ton of jobs, but I was just trying to find something that at least paid close to a living wage. I was applying most jobs that made at least $40,000 and up, and it was really hard to find them. They were mostly like manager, officer manager type positions, and that was about it. So I just applied to those jobs. It was one I applied to, and it was it acted like it was a guaranteed pay. And when I went there for like a preliminary like interview, it was like an insurance job, and I was like, and they did an entire presentation, and there was like a room of people, and I'm thinking, this is such a scam. This is not like actual real numbers. And so after that presentation, I just left. I was like, no way, I'm not gonna do this. I don't like working for 100% commission. Like, so many people in 100% commission jobs are like multi-level marketing jobs. You're not getting paid. They don't care. They want to hire 20 of you because 5 of you are only going to make a living wage, or half of one. You know, most of the time you're making $10,000 a year, and you're just out, you know, scavenging like a little rat, just looking for a crumb out there, just constantly just looking and looking and looking. You never can have friendships, you never can go to parties. Like, every interaction has to be marketing, you marketing yourself, handing out your card. Like, you are just hungry for anyone to buy from you, and that's such a terrible way to try to make a living, at least for me. I'm sure someone enjoys it. There are probably tons of people who like it, but not me. If I'm gonna be putting time in, I wanna make sure I'm getting paid for that time, guaranteed, point blank, period. No. So I did not apply or take that job. I was like, no. And, but that was basically all there was in Mississippi. And so right before I moved out here, so I took, well, wait, hold on, rewind. So I did take another job, and it was a job selling cell phones. And that job, I was so excited because it was paying me $15 an hour, and I could not believe, you know, because it was that plus commission, and it was the first time where I was getting full benefits. I was having health insurance for the first time in my life. I had, you know, all those things, vacations and sick time, and other jobs, they didn't offer those types of things. So it was a lot of perks. And they also flew me to another state and city where I was trained for 5 days, and that was a fun experience. I really loved and enjoyed it. There was a guy there that was like training to be a manager, and he was trying to like come over to my hotel room, and I'm like, no thank you, dude, no. But yeah, other than that, it was a wonderful, great experience. I absolutely loved it. I like going to other places and just kind of experiencing that energy and the vibe, and all of us like learning. Of course, when it comes to technology, I had only had a smartphone, I think at that point, for 1 year. So for me to be selling cell phones and fixing people's phones and like going through it and stuff like that, I was way behind on the curve for that. I wasn't super techie. I didn't know anything about cell phones really, or computers and things like that. But I am pretty quick with learning, and so I started working there, and I was very overwhelmed because there was so much for me to try to catch up on, to learn, and I was just, the systems they had were they were very confusing. They were not conducive for you to just get in there and just learn and just like click around and just like do stuff. So I was really confused, and it was hard because people would come in and they'd just be like, my phone's messed up, like fix it, like what's wrong, like a lot of people like that, a lot of like energy that didn't really like, and I wasn't quite used to that sort of thing. I've been in customer service forever, of course. Selling the handbags, that was in customer service. I used to sell my own products as a boutique, and that was customer service as well. And then I've mostly, you know, I've been serving for forever, and that's customer service, but not to the level that this company, the people that came in that were so upset, I've never really experienced that on such a consistent basis, and for them to be upset at you for something that wasn't even your fault, wasn't even the company's fault. Like mostly they came in ranting and raving about them not being able to retrieve their information, you know, or because they'd forgot a password to their email or their phone. And it was like, these are things that I am not responsible for. Like regardless of who you are or who sold you the phone, you are responsible for what goes in it. Your email, we don't have your email password. Like the people that would come in that would be so irate and so entitled, you know, that it mostly was, I guess, older generations, but of course some younger people would come in too with some kind of like, you know, maybe that makes sense. But it was like, oh my God. Some people would come in and want you to put the screen cover on to like the little protector, you know, on your phone. And one lady, I told the manager, I'm like, no way am I helping her. Like she's all like, you know, telling me it better be perfect. There better not be, you know, nothing wrong with it. It better be just absolutely perfect. And I'm like, well, nothing's ever perfect in life, lady. So you know what? You could do it yourself then. Make it to your perfection with your own little hands. So that was the only job where it really just rubbed me the wrong way. These customers that would come in, I had it with them. And so daily just experiencing that, but I still was an amazing employee. I was never late. I was never, you know, never called out really. Only called out if I was like really sick. And I worked almost, I lived almost an hour away from where I worked, so it was a really long drive for me. But it was the first time in my life where I was making close to a living wage for Mississippi, and I had benefits, so it was very nice. But the management there was just, they had favorites. Yeah, the managers were cool, but the GM there, I really felt like he didn't really like me or something. Like there was just something about it. Like he seemed to like have favorites with other people. A few instances that really just seemed really wrong, because I was usually #1 seller, or at least high. Like of course there was this one guy, he was always #1 normally, and so I was usually like right like below him, or maybe a couple if someone got like a really like high numbers with like a business account or something like that. Like I was the only one, me and this guy, we were the only ones usually who were so hungry for the sale. So me and him would literally stand up by the door, like on each side of the door, and we would open the door for people as they came in, and we would take turns. And once it got too busy or whatever, then the overflow of people, the rest of the workers who didn't really care, they all were like on their phones, you know, like just standing around the store, sitting, whatever, like then they would take on the customers. So me and him were like some of the hardest workers there. We took on case after case after case of people just coming in, and because we wanted those sales. But, and it didn't take me very long. When I was there, I do ask a lot of questions, and there was one manager who really loved to like pick on me, and everyone there really thought I was stupid because I asked a lot of questions because I'm very curious and I want to know things, and I'll make sure I do things correctly. So I asked a ton of questions. Some of the questions they just thought were like, oh, so stupid, or just like, why are you asking this? Like these hypotheticals and things like that. And so they didn't really take me seriously, the management and even the people there, because I also am I'm very eccentric and I'm different. I didn't really fit in with everyone there. So everyone, they just like loved me. I was like the weird, quirky coworker. They all were just like, oh, you're so weird. Like you're so endearing because you're so weird. And so I was just, I mean, I don't know. I'm not used to like fitting in into like a team environment like that. I'm just too strange. But it was, and I also felt like I was trapped too though, because I've never been in a place, I've always had like part-time jobs or worked for myself, or something like that. I've never been stuck in a place for so many hours, the same place, and it felt like a prison. Like the hours and hours that we had nothing going on, and I literally had straightened everything up and had done everything I possibly could, and nobody was coming in. I would just like walk in circles. Like I just would walk and walk and walk and walk, and I was just like walking in circles for hours there, because it just was like, oh my gosh, like I just don't like being stuck in four walls. It just feels like a prison to me. But I tried to stick it out despite how the managers thought I was stupid, and despite feeling like I was in prison most of the time, because it was the first time I was making decent pay and having benefits. And I was also, I was really good at it. So it was kind of funny, because the manager that thought I was stupid and would like say snide little remarks and comments to me, there was a period after so many months, once I got acclimated, because they say it takes like 6 months to a year for you to really learn a new job and to really get good at it. And so after about, I think it was probably around the holidays, so I started working there around July, and didn't officially, it was like 3 months of probation and things like that. So once I felt like I was starting to get really good at things, because I asked so many questions, I was so highly curious. So after about like maybe 5 months, there was actually a period where that manager, he would say something to me, and I would say something, and I started being the one who was like correct. Like whatever I would say, I was right. And he started being like, oh, well, okay, maybe you're not stupid. Like maybe you actually like know what you're doing. And so I think it was a turning point with him to where he started actually taking me seriously. And also because I was a really good seller at that point. I was making really good sales, and I was hitting targets and things like that. And so, and also what we would do would be at the end of the month, if all of us, if you couldn't make it to like the next bracket for your commission, then we would pass on sales to people who needed just a couple more to be able to make their commission check. And in January, everyone was able to do that, and they passed off things and they helped each other. And I missed my commission check by one device. One. And it was so slow that day. And I was so bummed that I missed it, because that's what you work for every single month, because you can't make a living off of $15 an hour. You need that extra commission. You need it so that you can pay bills and you can do things and you can actually have a decent living wage. And that is the stress that comes with these types of jobs and trying to hit these metrics, these numbers, and these expectations from these corporations. So it was a really stressful situation to constantly be in that situation where every single month the slate is wiped clean, and it's never enough for the corporations and the bosses and the managers. They always want more. It's never enough. They never tell you that you do a good job, that you're an amazing worker. Like there's no like positive reinforcement with things. It's usually just negative. You're always told when things are wrong. And the final straw with me leaving that company was, of course, the whole time I was kind of treated differently because they had favorites, and I was such a hard worker, clearly, and I never missed, I never was late. Okay, keep all this in mind. Like, I'm one of the best workers they have. And I would sit at the door to try to catch sales because you don't want to leave. So I wouldn't go to the bathroom, I wouldn't go get water, I wouldn't drink coffee, I wouldn't take my breaks. I would sit at that door so that I could make money. But every now and then I had to go back to get some water or some coffee or do something, you know, like you have to go back to the floor, you know, off the floor, so you can do those things because you are a human and not a robot. But anytime I went back to like the back break room area to get some coffee, there was always one of the managers. They'd be like, get back on the floor. Like, what are you doing? Like, you need to get back out there. I've been out there for 5 hours straight. Did you not see that? It got old fast because I don't like that level of micromanaging. If I can't even go back and get water comfortably or coffee, and other people, they would leave and they would take like a 2-hour lunch. Nobody would say anything to them. They would just leave. They would clock in on their phones, or they would call and have one of their buddies at work clock them in while they're still off on lunch. None of the management ever addressed any of that. It was little old me. If I'm back there getting water because I need it after 5 hours of there, then no, I need to get back to the front door and start working again because their favorite person is out on a 3-hour lunch break paid. It was ridiculous, and it got old really fast, and I was so tired of being treated differently from everyone who worked there, and not sure why. Maybe because I'm quirky. I just thought maybe I didn't fit the right demographic for them. So I was like, you know what? And then the final straw, like that really bugged me, all of that, because I don't like bullying or being treated differently for no reason. I don't like that. And so the final straw though was there was this guy who, I think he transferred from another store or something. I feel like, yeah, I think he just transferred. So there was this guy who was really tall, really big dude, and actually there were two of them. There were two bigger guys that were pretty recent, and they kind of started butting heads with everyone there because he was like, he kind of would, one time, and this was like right before I had left. Right before I left, I was up at the door and, you know, waiting, like me and that other guy, we both were sitting there waiting for customers to come in. And this guy who had not been waiting, he was in the back, you know, playing on his phone or relaxing or chatting or doing stuff, whatever. These people come walking towards the door, and he just walks right in front of me. Just as I'm about to open the door or, you know, to talk to them, he just cuts me off, walks right in front of me, opens the door. Oh, hi, you know, welcome in. Like, what brings you in today? You know, trying to steal it when he hasn't even been up there, like, waiting or doing anything. He's been back there, like, chilling, doing nothing. And he thinks he can just come in and cut me off just because I'm a small woman. And he did that, and the people were like, oh, we've got this issue, you know, we've got some problems, like, whatever. Immediately, since he knows it's not going to be a sell or whatever, he's like, oh, she'll help you out, and hands them off to me. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I'm not gonna make a scene in front of customers, you know? Like, I take anyone, despite if it's an issue or if it's a problem or what's going on. Like, for me, customer service is always number one. But just the audacity of him doing that, I could not believe it. I was absolutely livid, just livid. And oh my gosh, I went and had to talk to the manager about it. And they were, oh, we'll talk to him, you know, and of course not. You know, he got to just do whatever he wants. The management, they really wanted us up front. They wanted us fighting over sales. Like, that was the kind of environment that they were trying to breed there, and it just was very toxic. It was not good. And so there was a guy who came in, and I helped him with his phone. I got everything set up, and he actually was a manager, like a higher up manager at a car dealership. And he was like, you should come work for me at the car dealership. And I'm like, dude, like I said, I'm not gonna do all commission sales. No, thank you. And so he told me, he said, well, for 3 months, I will give you a guaranteed amount. I will match whatever your average is that you make here. I will give that to you. And because I was like wanting to get out of there, I was so fed up with being treated terribly and differently and them having favorites and just the toxic environment there. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna leave. And so I just did it. I'd been there for 1.5 years, and I was fed up and done with it. And I actually told them, and they were so sad. They were all like, oh no, like, you're our best worker. Like, we could see you moving up to be a manager, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, guys, like, why didn't you show me this type of, you know, like, appreciation for me when I actually was working here? It's when I'm leaving that you actually start appreciating me. And so I left there, and the dealership I was gonna work at was just like right up the road from there, so it still was a really long drive for me. And I'd never worked in car like sales, so, and I was online car sales. So the thing is that with car sales, you work 6 days a week, which I was unaware of. Like, I didn't even think, I didn't ask him, like, hey dude, like, what's the working hours? Like, you know, so I had to work 6 days a week for the same pay as that company. And he said they had benefits and things like that, but we're talking about benefits that are like nothing. Like, you pay $300 a month, and then your deductible is $6,000. So you have to every single year spend $6,000 out of your pocket to go to doctor's offices, plus $300 a month before the insurance kicks in. What a joke. So it was terrible benefits. But the one thing I liked about that is that I wasn't necessarily like customer facing. So I mostly was texting customers, emailing customers, and talking with them through their CRM on the computer, because it's online car sales. People would ask me questions, I would respond back, I would go check stuff, I would go walk the lot, and I would take photos, and I would respond to people who asked questions about things, and I would, when they would come in, I would set appointments, I would show them the car, we would drive around, like I would sell it out. So it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I had an office for the first time in my life, which I absolutely loved, because I could sit there and just, you know, mind my own little business and not have to worry about, you know, I don't know, people coming in and like wanting to talk to me and do all this weird stuff. And so I just was chilling in my office, just answering stuff. It was very relaxing, and I loved the work. I loved working there with online sales, and I got a little crawfish and I put it in my office, and this other lady next to me, she had a little betta fish, and so it was good. And the first month that I was there, I sold a lot of cars. The second month, I actually was one of the top sellers there and sold a lot of cars, and this was December. But January, it was completely dead. And I was like, February is when I stopped with the, you know, the commission. Like, I'm not gonna get the guaranteed monthly amount, because it's only for 3 months. So I was like, oh yikes. And so, and I really was just really tired of driving that far to work, because by that time I had been doing that for over 2 years, and after working 6 days a week for 3 months, I was just burned out, you know, just from the stress of the previous job and the stress of trying to get that job, and then the stress of this one and working 6 days a week and driving, and I just was so tired. I was like, I just don't want to keep doing this anymore. And there also was a guy there who was very inappropriate with me and really creepy and weird. And I was trying to be nice to him, and because he was actually a really, you gotta watch out for the nice ones, like the ones that are really, really sweet and quiet and have this low little voice. Like, if you met him, you would think that he was probably the sweetest guy you'd ever met. And but he wasn't. He was definitely a creeper and a predator or something. Something was not right with him. And so I was like, you know, that's when I instigated, after my experiences with that guy, no matter how sweet and nice they seem, that's when I said in my mind, no hugging, no touching policy. Like, I don't care if you're a friend, I don't care if you're a coworker, like I lay my foot down now and I say I have a no hugging policy. Point blank period. Try to hug me? Nope, no thank you. I do not do that. Keep trying. Nope, nope, nope. Remember, I don't do the hugging. Nope. So that's allowed me to set a boundary. But just after that experience, and then the owner, or not necessarily the owner, he was a guy that was high up in it. He's the one who actually brought me on. Anytime a guy really shows kind of favoritism towards me, I always start getting very comfortable, because I don't know what their expectation is, because normally it means that they like me or there's some ulterior motive. So the whole time that I was going there, I was kind of like a little, I didn't know what he was going to try to do. And he never did. He was a totally cool dude. Surprisingly, I was shocked that he was pretty nice. And but he said, me being there, that the company, it was really slow. A lot of the employees were very disgruntled and upset, and the environment there was really toxic and just really like down. And so he wanted me, I feel like he wanted me to come there because I was one of the only women who worked there, and he wanted to kind of change the environment to be more positive, to be more upbeat, to be like, because everybody, when I would walk in the morning, like I would be saying hi to everyone, good morning everybody, you know, I would be chatting, so it's completely different. Everybody would come out of their offices and they all love to see me in the morning. They'd be all like, hi, you know, come over, maybe chat for like a few minutes, and then we'd all go back to our offices, and they liked that kind of interaction and what I brought to the place. But January, I didn't hardly sell anything, and I just felt like that it was time for me to get closer to home, and I actually started applying to jobs in Seattle at that point, because I was really just fed up with Mississippi and my experiences in the workforce in Mississippi. It just was really exhausting, and it was just a waste, I felt like, of my life and my skills, because I have a biochemistry degree. I'm highly creative, I'm very ambitious, and I'm very driven. And why am I going to go work at these places that don't value that? They don't pay me what I feel like I need to make, and it's all these like really low level, entry level jobs, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I need to get out of here. Like, I just need to leave the South, leave this impoverished area that's very closed-minded, and I need to go somewhere completely different that will make me just come alive and make me feel like that my life is actually doing something, and that I'm actually progressing in life, and I'm doing something that is worthwhile. And So when when I told everyone, I'm like, you know what, I think I'm gonna leave, and I think I'm gonna go to Seattle. Like I started telling some of my coworkers that I talked to, and they were like, if you leave, you don't give 2-week notice. Because I'm like, you know, I need to write my 2-week notice. And they're like, no, you don't give a 2-week notice. You just pack your stuff up and tell them you're leaving. And I'm like, what? Because before that, I only heard you were supposed to give 2-week notices. So I felt really weird and awkward, and I'm like, dude, am I supposed to do that? Like, am I supposed to just like pack my stuff up, go to the guy? I was so nervous. I'm like, so I went to him, was like, hey, today's my last day. And he was so distraught. Like, he was like trying to negotiate with me. He was like, okay, I will extend the amount that I'm giving you every single month, the guaranteed. Like, if you just stay, I will extend that, and you will keep making that. I'll maybe put it this amount. And it was like maybe 300 less. And to me, if he had done it maybe the same, I maybe would have stayed. But because he made it a little bit less, I'm like, no, like, I'm done. Like, I only have health insurance here, bye. You know, I'm working 6 days a week. No. And so I was so fed up with it. I mean, it was a very toxic place, just the environment. And that's the reason why I leave a lot of jobs. If I'm being treated poorly, or if the environment is just terrible environment. I'm very susceptible to environments that are very toxic and negative. And because everybody was doing so bad and everybody was just really exhausted and just fed up with the job itself, it just was wearing on me. And so I just was like, nope, I'm leaving, bye. And so I packed up my stuff, and he sadly had to let me go. And the weird guy that had been acting really weird with me, he went chasing after me to my car, and I was sitting in my driver's seat about to leave, and he just starts grabbing my thighs, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, get off of me. And I just left. It was so weird. And I went to the mall, and I treated myself to a waffle with chocolate. It was this really delicious like place in Collierville, the Wolf Chase Mall. I went there, and there was like a place there that had chocolate and like waffles and different things like that. And that was my little celebration for getting out of there and surviving assaults too. And so I was done, and I had just bought a house like 6 months before that. So it's like up and down like crazy, like income and like instability. And luckily though, and then I went and applied and started working for another dealership that was only 10 minutes from my house. But let me tell you, this place sucked. It sucked horribly. It was such a terrible place. February, car sales in February. Oh my gosh. What I didn't like about this one is I wasn't online car sales, and that's what I liked about the car sales was the online part. I was actually like out on the lot, and I absolutely detest that. I loathe that type of environment and interaction. Like, oh my gosh, it was the absolute worst. So at least I made a friend there, and me and him were always going out on the lot. You'd get a key, and we'd go sit in different vehicles all around the lot, and we would just talk all day and just like wait for people to come onto the lot. But the thing was, it was absolutely ridiculous. Freezing cold, absolutely freezing cold in February. Rainy, cold, nobody was coming in. I wasn't making any money hardly. They only gave us like $500, I think it was a month. Yeah, I think it was like, no, it's $500 a week, I think, or every 2 weeks. It wasn't a lot of money. They didn't give us a lot of money. It was like this draw, you know? And so me and him, we were always trying to find people. But the problem is when you are stuck on the lot, there was 2 entrances. You never knew where somebody was coming in. So we'd be over here, and somebody would come in on the other entrance, and somebody else would get them. I literally had, for the entire month, like at least 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, I literally only had maybe 2 encounters with customers. 2. Because nobody was coming, and when they did, it was always I was always on the wrong side, or there was always somebody a little closer that would get to them first. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. There's no way for me to try to actually like help myself make sales here. This is not gonna work. This is not gonna work for me. I absolutely hate this. I'm not gonna go running and sprinting all around the lot while it's raining and 20 degrees outside just so I can try to maybe get a potential sale. No, this is for the birds. So I made one sale. Actually, it was really funny because I had bartended, you know, previously after my divorce, and I actually sold the first and the only car I ever sold there was to this couple that used to come in and see me. They absolutely loved me, and it was so sweet to see them. And I was like, this is absolutely amazing. And I got to see them. He bought her husband, he bought her a little like new car. She was so elated. They're like in their 50s or something. They were the sweetest older couple. They were like bikers, like ex-bikers or whatever. They were so sweet. And I still think about them because they were just so sweet and nice. I just love them from bartending days. And they always give me good tips too, of course. But I was like, this is so cool. But so after I was been there for like 3 weeks, it was, let's see, I started working there in like the first or second week of February. And it was probably probably the first week of February. I had been there like a month or less, and Jason's job transferred him, or they closed his location, and he applied to jobs like in Denver and some other places. And I was really hoping for Seattle. You know, I'd been previously applying to jobs in Seattle from like January, and he got the news that we were moving to Seattle, and I was like, yay! We just bought a house though, so that kind of sucked. But I was really excited to finally be moving to another area, because I'd lived in Mississippi for 32 years and I hadn't gotten anywhere. Like, I had educated myself and I had gotten a biochemistry degree. I had learned a bunch of skills, taught myself photography. I had my own boutique. I made a bunch of things. I did marketing with my boutique. I did so much stuff, and I had learned a lot of customer service skills, and I had been working so hard, but it just felt like I was just treading water. It just didn't feel like I was ever gonna go anywhere. And it's hard to survive in that kind of environment where you just feel like you're not going anywhere, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much work you put in, no matter what you do. You know, I mean, even my friend who has a master's degree, she can't even find jobs and work. So it's a little ridiculous, and it just goes to show that education does not mean you're going to get a job, for sure. And be having a hard education, it really doesn't. Only maybe getting a doctor degree, like a medical doctor license or something like that, is going to guarantee you a job. Getting something as far as like scientist type degree or some kind of like biological degree, chemistry degree, it's too hard. My friend, she did not. I mean, if you do get hired, it's going to be for really like low level jobs that don't pay anything. They're going to pay like maybe $15 an hour or something like that, or 10. Like, I looked at some of the jobs and they were like hiring for like testing, things like that. It mostly was like in labs, mostly was minimum wage. I'm like, I didn't go to school to go make minimum wage. I could do that without the schooling. Thank you very much. No. So that's why I never worked in my field or my degree. But so yeah, we got the okay that we were moving to Seattle. So I told the car dealership, I'm like, hey, like, I'm moving to Seattle. And they were like, okay, peace, like, you can leave today. Because, you know, in car dealership type of things, it's like, there's no reason for you to like keep staying and doing this when you're working on a draw and you're not gonna be there for the long haul. So I left immediately, and I didn't work for almost a month. Like, I spent the last 3 weeks just packing stuff up, because I had all my boutique stuff still, a lot of my boutique stuff, in one of the extra bedrooms, or two. I think 2 bedrooms may have been full of stuff. So I just worked on trying to sell stuff. I sold a bunch of stuff to my sister because she just bought a house recently, and so she needed some furniture and things like that. So I sold her some furniture, and I was packing everything up, going through stuff, and I moved everything I owned pretty much into a storage unit in Mississippi. And it's been sitting there for almost 4 years. It's been in there for 3.5 years. And when we moved out here, I told myself, after 1 year, we're gonna buy a place, we're gonna get my stuff moved. 4 years later, still haven't bought a place, still struggling with jobs and income. We will continue the saga, though, of a series of unfortunate jobs, and you will hear all about the crazy stuff that I have worked out here in Washington, and the crazy job situations I encountered through the pandemic. Because I would say out of all of my jobs, I think I've had the worst encounters as far as like illegal activities and things like that out here in Washington. This is where I've experienced the most, and a lot of, I guess, sexism or something. Like, I've experienced a lot of, I guess it's because I was in the constructions. When I moved out here, I was in the construction industry, so you're just gonna see a lot of that. And I've had a lot of really bad experiences out here. It's not been good. But yeah, I will see all of you in the next video.